Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Towers. I'm the Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this webinar where we're going to look at various aspects of the government's COVID-19 legislation and how you as accountants can assist your clients to survive. I also want to welcome the viewers we have on Facebook Live. I hope you're seeing us loud and clear today and are able to follow this presentation. Whatever you thought 2020 was going to be about, think again. That was a comment by Scott Morrison only a few weeks ago, really. And I don't know whether he really envisaged the changes that were going to occur. Because what have we had since? We've had COVID-19 coronavirus that originally we probably thought was a Chinese and then an Italian problem, and now it's gone all around the world and it's causing major health problems and significant business problems, of course. But prior to that in Australia, we had a whole series of natural disasters, didn't we? I think we've all forgotten about them. The droughts that caused a lot of problems in most states, in Western areas. We had bushfires, which caused immense problems. We had floods that followed the bushfires, put some of the fires out actually, and we had cyclones in northwest Western Australia. So we've had it all. And then along comes COVID-19 coronavirus, which is now giving us all a lot of problems. This is the biggest challenge in 100 years, was one of Scott Morrison's other comments. And the government has now introduced 3 stimulus packages. Now, when that first stimulus package was introduced, I thought, okay, $17 billion, that's a lot of money. And that's probably going to be where this all ends. And I was in the middle of rewriting our product package, which we call Survival in Difficult Times at the time. And I thought I'll put this package into this and we've got a new product ready to go out to our subscribers. And then someone said to me, oh, there's going to be another stimulus package. So we waited. And then we've got the third one. And on Wednesday, stimulus package number 3, of course, is going to the government for approval. And in total, $300 billion has been allocated, a significant amount of this targeted at small businesses and medium-sized enterprises. Working from home's become a new activity that a lot of people are getting involved in because it become a point of necessity. And that brings its own challenges, doesn't it? Especially now as it's school holidays and people have got children at home. And we've got these various government assistance packages that have now been introduced because of the 3 stimulus packages. And understanding some you've got to apply for, others that are going to be automatically granted once you lodge your business activity statement or your clients do. There is no doubt in my mind that the small, medium enterprise community need your commercial guidance as accountants. A lot of them are shell-shocked. A lot of them don't really know what to do. Some of them have had to close their businesses, obviously, and that's causing immense problems. But if there was ever a time for accountants to really prove that as a profession, we deserve the trusted advisor title, now is it. And that trusted advisor service has to be on commercial matters, not just taxation advice. Your clients are looking for a wider range of advice. And if you're too busy to supply it, please refer them on to someone else. If you don't want to send them down the road to one of your competitors, which I can understand, send me an email. peter@essbiztools.com.au, and I will introduce you to an accountant that's a little bit further away that can look after your clients so that you're able to supply that service to them. So you need to supply leadership to guide them through this journey, to help them to be strong at the end of this task. So the first part of the government packages, so let's go through what's come out of the stimulus packages. We've got the boost for businesses with turnovers up to $50 million per annum. And this relates to the tax-free payment of a total of $100,000 for some businesses. That's going to be calculated at 100% of the PAYG tax component that's been deducted from employees' wages. So it's a tax-free payment. The maximum amount is $50,000, which you will be able to draw down in the March business activity statement lodgement, or your clients will be able to draw down, which they have to lodge by the 28th of April. And a further top up to the maximum of $50,000 will be available based on the June period. And there's also a tax-free payment of up to $10,000 in the first stage, $20,000 in the 12 months if the business payments of tax deducted from employees does not exceed $10,000. The business will get $10,000 credit. And if the business had no PAYG wages deducted, the business will still receive a credit of $10,000. So that system is operational. Business activity statements need to be lodged on the 28th of April to start that process being activated. Some businesses are going to be entitled to the coronavirus supplement, which relates to sole traders and self-employed people. If their income has decreased by 30% when compared to last year, they can apply through Centrelink to be eligible for the coronavirus supplement that will entitle them to $550 per fortnight to be paid to them for the 6-month period. And once they have that entitlement for the coronavirus supplement, they're able to access up to $10,000 of their superannuation fund monies between now and the 30th of June if they wish. And they can access a further $10,000 in the period from 1 July to 30 September 2020. So it's worth looking at. We have a initiative for businesses with less than 20 full-time employees, and that's the apprentice or trainee subsidy. That's an amount that will be paid to businesses that had apprentices or trainees engaged as at the 1st of March. And the payment's going to be 50% of the apprentice's wages, up to a maximum payment in a 9-month period, January to September 2020, of $21,000. And if you've got 2 or 3 apprentices on a client's books, well, they can get 2 or 3 times that $21,000 maximum. But it's based on 50% of the apprentice's wages for that 9-month period. The client has to apply for this supplement, and the registration forms are now available on the ATO website. There was also some special initiatives introduced for businesses with turnovers up to $500 million. And this gets back to the instant asset write-off that has been updated. It now applies to a business that has spent up to $150,000 in a transaction. Obviously, they're going to need the spare cash, or they have the borrowing capacity to be able to spend that money. And they can spend as many units of $150,000 as they wish. So they can do that to gain those tax deductions based on that acquisition. That new asset obviously has to be installed ready for use by 30 June 2020. The 50% accelerating depreciation deduction is also available, but this goes through to 30th of June 2021. So that's part of the stimulus package that the government's introduced. The next one I want to talk to you today about as we go through these government initiatives is the JobKeeper payment. Now, this is going to Parliament tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting what comes out in the final legislation. But the government has indicated that they will be paying $1,500 per fortnight for each full-time employee, part-time employee, and casual employee who had more than 12 months service with the employer at the 1st of March 2020, subject to the condition on the employer's eligibility, which I'll refer to in a moment. I'm a little bit critical that a lot of the media commentary hasn't really emphasized that, and there's an expectation by a lot of people out there that everyone is going to be getting this benefit of $1,500 per fortnight. Obviously, that's not correct. The business has to prove its eligibility. There are rumours floating around that when this legislation goes to Parliament on Wednesday, that the definition of a casual for the coronavirus payment, the JobKeeper payment, will be varied, but we'll wait to see what the legislation says when it's finally passed by Parliament. And it's always a bit dangerous even running a webinar before legislation's been finalised. This legislation commenced in effect. The eligibility for the JobKeeper payment started on Monday, the 30th of March. So it's operational. And we now come to the eligibility, and this is very important. The business must have shown a 30% reduction in its business activities relative to what happened in 2019. Now, the expectation is that if your client is lodging their business activity statement on a quarterly basis, that comparison will be made to January, February, March last year as compared to this year. And if they're lodging on a monthly basis, it will be compared to March in 2019 with March in 2020. The tax commissioner has been given some extra powers, or it's indicated by the alert that's been issued by the finance department, that the tax commissioner will be able to make specific decisions on individual cases. So the business mightn't have been operating in March 2019, might only have started in July 2020. What happens then? Or there may have been a major natural disaster in that first 3 months of 2019, which there was in North Queensland and Northwest Queensland. Massive floods caused a lot of problems. A lot of livestock were drowned, and there were massive problems in Townsville. So that is going to affect some businesses' turnover in 2019. As I've already indicated, the JobKeeper payment is going to be based on the information that your clients supply in the business activity statements. The business has to register with the Australian Taxation Office I have heard on the news that over 350,000 people have registered, but I understand that's a registration process basically to receive updates on what is happening. No one can really register until after the legislation has been passed. And I understand that the tax office will be instigating a digital registration process, probably in a few days' time, once the legislation has been passed. The payments are going to be made monthly in arrears, so your clients need to take that into account when we look at their cash flow forecast, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. The payments are scheduled to be made from the first week of May, so the client has got to make all the payments throughout April, submit some sort of form which is yet to be produced by the ATO, and then the payments will be made direct to the business. The next item I want to move on to as we go through these various government initiatives is the Coronavirus SME Guarantee Scheme, which is really a joint venture between the Australian government, who are issuing a 50% guarantee on the borrowings, the Reserve Bank, who have made available $90 billion in funds to the Australian banks as a group at 0.25% interest, I understand. And that money has been available since the 23rd of March. And according to the Reserve Bank news release, it is available until the 30th of September. So there is some urgency here to get the money. The government hopes that this money is going to be spent as soon as possible to create business activity, to keep the money going around. And the proposal is that this money will be lent to small, medium enterprises who need financing for their working capital purposes for 3-year loans with no repayments having to be made for the first 6 months, with security from the Commonwealth Government to cover 50% of the debt. And the maximum amount of the loans is $250,000. So this is a unique tranche of lending that's being made available to Australian businesses. And it's for new unsecured loans for working capital. So it's not to go out and build a new building. If your client wants to do that, I'd be urging them to have separate discussions with the bank. The Coronavirus Guarantee Scheme relates to these particular loans, up to $250,000, repayable in 3 years, that have been 50% guaranteed by the Commonwealth Government. And the money's only going to be available to the 30th of September. And this facility only applies to small, medium-sized enterprises, businesses with turnovers up to $50 million. There's no distinction between companies, trusts, partnerships, or sole traders. It just says businesses. Now that's what the proposal, the fact sheets have all been indicating. And I know commenting on what might be passed by a parliament is always a risky occupation. So we'll have to wait until Wednesday night to see what's in the final legislation that's been approved. It's interesting to note that there was a news release that I read this morning that indicated the Commonwealth Bank has already lent $150 million to the 1,850 businesses that they've approved. So they're underway. It's probably early days yet. 70% of those businesses were from New South Wales. So that's a a very large share of that activity going to businesses located in New South Wales. And the article did have a dissection of the type of businesses that have been able to secure those funds. Now let's turn to what you now do as an accountant. We've gone through and looked at the government support, and I think that's probably it at this stage, especially for businesses with turnovers under $50 million per annum. How do you now turn all this into a plan to ensure the survival of your client's business? So in the first instance, we've just done what my first suggestion is, and that is you review the government offers, what's available from governments, and don't forget the state or territory governments that your clients are operating under their various jurisdictions. And some of you have got clients all over Australia, I know that, and each individual state and territory government have now introduced a range of grants and loans that are all built around coronavirus. Some of your clients are going to need help in those applications, putting it all together. In some instances, the applications may well require business plans, budgets, cash flow forecasts, financial accounts to June 2019, interim financial accounts during the current financial year, and perhaps some other information. And I've noticed at times that grants that are coming from state governments seem to require more financial data to be submitted to them. So many of your clients are going to need assistance in those applications if they are going to be successful with them. I think one of the big requirements is going to be to encourage your clients to communicate with their suppliers, to find out what's going on. When are they going to get the orders they placed months ago? When are they going to be delivered to them? But also to have a conversation with the suppliers. What assistance can they give to your clients through these difficult months? Are they prepared to extend the payment terms out a few months? If you don't ask, you won't know. Are they prepared to discount some of the prices? Can they supply some additional support? It might be arranging some additional marketing material, or a well-known person in that industry to be a keynote speaker at some event. Or they'd have to be doing it like this over video, wouldn't they? We can't have people going into public audiences. But talk to the suppliers. What about landlords? Now, the government's working on a proposal, I understand, for landlords, both for residential and commercial business premises. But many of your clients could well be renting their facilities off fairly small landlords, mum and dad type family businesses who own one or two little properties. Your clients might need some assistance, might need some figures produced so that they can have a conversation with their landlords to see if the rent can be reduced during this very difficult period, which the Prime Minister is telling us is going to go through to at least the end of September and perhaps longer. So again, if you don't ask, you will never know. So I'd be suggesting you talk to your clients about doing that. And then I think we should turn to where your client might be able to get some cash quickly. Because whilst the media is telling us that the supermarkets don't want cash being paid anymore, they want everyone to pay with credit cards, just tap them and go. And they've even increased the amount of money you can spend on that transaction. The concept of cash or money coming into the business that wasn't really anticipated would come in is very, very important for businesses at this stage. And as their accountant starting to wear a chief financial hat, that's one of the most important things that you can be having that conversation with your clients about how are we going to get some money in from debtors. Take out the debtors age analysis, look at it. Whose payments are beyond your stated terms of trade? And then get a senior manager within the organization to get on the phone and talk to that customer and try and get the payments made ASAP. Enter into new deals with them to try to reduce the amount of debt. You know, Australia's debts are currently sitting, their debtors' debts at 56 days, according to a report that was released a couple of weeks ago. There was a great commotion about 4 years ago when Australia was named in an international report that analysed debtors' days outstanding around the world, and we were given the very dubious title of having the longest debtors' days outstanding in the world. Kate Carnell, the Australian government's small business and franchising industry ombudsman, called it a national disgrace. And that debtors' days outstanding figure then was 56.4 days. The figure contained in the latest report is 56 days. So over a 4-year period, with great pressure from the Ombudsman and with the then Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull instructing federal government departments to make payments in less than 30 days, and some of the state governments doing something similar, and some big businesses also doing that, we've only decreased the overall debtors' days outstanding by 0.4 of a day. So I'd be suggesting that you encourage your clients to follow up and try to get these payments in. One of the big problems I always find when I go in to look at a business and we're looking to find where we can get some cash is the amount of money that's tied up in inventory. People tend to take their eyes off the stock turn rates, don't really look at the build up of stock that might have happened because some extra stock was purchased and it's been sitting in the back of the warehouse now for 3 years. Or they've got a big quantity of last year's fashions because they overbought or they bought the wrong color or something. The quicker that type of stock is liquidated for the business, I think the better, because it's eating its head off in interest. Even though interest rates are low, it's still costing interest. It's using warehouse space. The warehouse employees probably continually having to shift it around because he wants to use that space for something else. It's a nuisance. Why not try to convert it into cash? So I'd be talking to your clients about that and saying, can we convert it into cash? And the next area that's very similar to this is surplus assets. I'm sure we've all had clients, or was I always the unlucky one, that had clients that somehow or other couldn't avoid an auction, a planned auction. And you'd be doing their accounts or having a monthly meeting with them and they tell you about this nice big tractor they bought or front end loader. I say, what are you going to do with that? Oh, I'm going to win a contract and I'm going to use it. And a year later, I'd say to them, how often did you use it? And they used it for 3 days. Well, those sort of assets, I think you should be trying to sell and hire those services when your client needs a tractor or a front end load or whatever it happens to be. But there can be other assets that have been acquired over the years that are sitting around the place. Have a look at them, get someone to do a stock take or suggest they do a stock take and look at trying to sell them. Someone might be happy to buy them, especially now that a lot of people are working at home and they've been told they can't go for a swim at the beaches and obviously can't go to supermarkets. So maybe they want to tinker with an old machine and make something new. So people might be looking for some of that, what we're calling surplus assets. And the big thing out of all this, now what I've just described should only take 1 or 2 days talking to your client, get the process in action so that a new budget and cash flow forecast can be prepared. Where is the business going? And part of this process, I think, should be a weekly estimate of sales, week by week for the next 26 weeks or even 52 weeks, go the full year, so that there's a greater appreciation of what is happening within the business. What's happening with costs? Review the costs of the business. Where can changes be made? Where can efficiencies be introduced? So this is all part of analysing the current position of the business. Because I think your role now, wearing that Chief Financial Officer hat, should be to encourage your clients to produce a COVID-19 survival plan, and that your firm or you as the individual accountant should be managing this process for your clients, because many of them will not either have the time or the inclination to be able to attend to this task. And out of that, there will be allocation of duties to various members of their team. With the new budget, your client will be able to prepare, with your assistance, a business case to take to their bank to have a discussion. Now, they may have decided, and you might agree with them, that they need a loan other than for working capital purposes. So that submission could go to the bank. But then, of course, they might need a working capital loan. Consideration could be given as to whether they would like to try to raise some capital. And the easiest way to do that is under Section 708 of the Corporations Act. As you know, a company can raise up to $2 million in a 12-month period from a maximum of 20 new shareholders. Just be careful, you're not going to exceed the 50 shareholder limit. That can be a problem. To raise capital using Section 708, I think you'll need to prepare a business plan, budgets, cash flow forecasts, and make sure the appropriate share proportions are in place before you go to the market with that document, and then make an approach to the people that you're legally entitled to talk to. So associates, friends and relatives, employees, suppliers, customers, that type of grouping. You can't go to the public like you can with crowdsourced funding equity raising. But under Section 708, your client could raise $500,000 in 4 to 6 weeks if they've got a good business and a good story to tell, and they can communicate with those people. Now, it's not going to be easy in this climate, I know that, but there are people still out there, and they may be interested in investing. I noticed that on the stock exchange, there's some big capital raises underway at present. So people have still got funds to invest. Or they could be interested, your client, in looking at a crowdsourced funding equity raising, primarily because they can talk to a lot more people, and $10,000 is the upper limit in any case, but that's going to take longer. The crowdsourced funding intermediaries normally desire a company to raise some money from under Section 708 capital raisings first, because that gives them a good testimonial statement to say that the friends and relatives and suppliers and customers of this company supported it by already having invested $400,000. And we now want to raise a further $500,000. And this is what we're going to do with it. It just paints the picture a bit better. Now that process, and because the offer period that a crowdsourced funding equity raising company can have in the market is 90 days, it can take 20 to 26 days. It might be a bit long, but there again, maybe your client's looking to having some extra funding available to finance them in the takeoff into the new opportunities that I'm sure we're all hoping for at the end of this process. So don't dismiss it out of hand. I talk to your client and see what they think, because that's an interesting assignment for your firm to get involved in. Now, unfortunately, at this stage, you may have decided that the client is going to struggle to continue, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully you can suggest they go into a close down phase at this stage and try to reduce costs as much as possible. Encourage their team to go to Centrelink and look at what processes they can get. But hopefully they might be able to recommence when this problem's completely over. Now, once you've analysed the cash flow, of course, I think the obvious loan that you might be looking at is the one that's going to be guaranteed by the Commonwealth Government to 50%. So that's the coronavirus special SME guarantee. To do that, I think you're going to need the COVID-19 survival plan to assist in your discussions with the bank. And part of the plan process should be that you will have a weekly meeting of people within the organisation that my suggestion is they are called the Coronavirus Committee, and they look at everything that's going on in the business to make sure that the business is reacting to changes by the government or new legislation or anything else, and checking on what's happening with the surplus asset sale and the collection of debtors and the reduction of stock through the stock sale. Don't just let your clients sit on this and think about it. Your clients need to be very much aware of what's happening with working at home. Some of them may need to inform their insurer that people are working from home. It's not desirable that 2 or 3 of the staff are coming together to work from one home. That's not what the government really means when they say working at home. But if you have not already suggested to your clients that they have a daily meeting, a huddle, now could be a great time to commence it, even though everyone's not going to be together. They won't be able to have a huddle. But a communication with them might be very important, 5-10 minutes. Talk about what's going on. Keep them informed, keep them communicating. Some people are going to find this very difficult to be working from their homes because their homes will not be that suitable in many cases, especially if they've got their spouse at home or their partner and they've got their children home from school. And perhaps the children are going to be home a lot longer because of this suggestion that everyone's going to have to stay away from school and teachers are going to be teaching them, the children, via the internet. So it might be difficult for some of your clients' team to be working at home. So that might need some consideration. I've already mentioned suppliers. Suppliers are very important for communication to continue with. And some of your clients might want to investigate creating some new supply chains. I think there's been a bit of a wake-up light bulb go off around Australia, that a lot of businesses have established all of their production in one country. And when something happens in that one country, no matter where it is around the world, it can cause immense problems. So some people are looking to whether they can diversify their supply chains. They might look at another country, preferably in a different part of the world, so that if there is a localized event in the future, production is still going to be occurring in an alternative facility and perhaps can be geared up if there is a problem in the primary production center. So many of your clients have probably established manufacturing in China, and out of this coronavirus problem, a lot of discussions are taking place as to whether having all of their eggs in one basket is desirable. And that's another discussion, wearing a chief financial officer's hat, that you could have with your clients. Keeping in contact with customers is also going to be very important. what's the customer doing in their business? What are their thoughts? What are their customers saying to them? Are they still going to want the products that your client is supplying to them? Or have their tastes changed, or they don't want to buy a product because they can't use it at this stage because of the restrictions that have been imposed? So the ongoing monitoring of cash flow is a very important process, and initially within the business should be supervised, I think, by the coronavirus committee. But if you're performing this role of chief financial officer, you or your colleagues in your firm should also be monitoring it. Reduce costs, I've already mentioned that. Employee manuals, a number of them are going to need to be updated because COVID-19, coronavirus, probably wasn't mentioned. And the problem we've got with this particular virus seems to be far more significant than anything we've had in the past, at least since 1919 anyhow. So the employee manuals may need to be updated. I think the response that you have to be giving to your clients is a commercial response, not a taxation response. And whilst your prime role with many of your clients up to this stage may have been the preparation of tax returns, annual accounts, advisory taxation, many of them now need assistance on these business commercial matters. And it's obvious that you should be the person that gives that advice. You're their accountant. Clients think you can give them that advice. You may have to think a bit more seriously, look at some of the material that's available. And we have produced material which will assist you to be able to proactively act as the chief financial officer for your client through this COVID-19 coronavirus without you having to spend hundreds of hours in writing the material and then keeping it up to date every time there's a change or a new fact sheet released by the ATO. Australia's got out of disastrous problems in the past. We've had 2 world wars. We've had Spanish flu in 1919, in which I understand 15,000 people died out of a 5 million population. We'll be devastated if we had anywhere near that number of people lose their lives through COVID-19 coronavirus. And I think that what should keep us all sane is this will not last forever. But you as the leader will need to be proactive in your advice to your clients to get them motivated to keep on going. And the government is trying hard to do that. But realistically, I don't think there's much more the government can do for businesses, especially for businesses with turnovers under $50 million per annum. So I'd like to invite you to visit our website, www.essbiztools.com.au, and then click on to Survival in Difficult Times, Learn More, where you can have a look at the promotional material that we have prepared. We've got some videos, we've got templates, we've got a complete list of what's included within the key documentation. And we've got the key COVID-19 survival plan template there so that you can see what you're going to be getting. And that will give you a full appreciation of this product. Now, your investment, and unfortunately it does come back to money, your investment is $92 per month, including GST, for 12 months. Or an upfront discounted payment of $990, including GST. And you will also receive updates that we prepare on this material over the next 12 months. And I'm sure there's going to be updates prepared because there's going to be changes made by governments and other organizations. And if you wish to subscribe, we would love to welcome you. So please go to www.essbiztools.com.au, subscribe now, and you can subscribe for this product package. Alternatively, you might like to subscribe for our gold package, which includes all of our products, including survival in difficult times. And there's a substantial discount if you do that. And you would then get access to 24 separate product packages and a whole range of other information. And your investment then would cost $261.80 per month, including GST. Or there is a discounted upfront payment of $2,970, including GST. And today I want to announce that ESS BizTools, in conjunction with our affiliates, and we have 10 affiliate organizations who all service either the accounting market or the small business market, and some of them both. We are joining our resources to form a COVID-19 survival panel, and we're going to be presenting a weekly discussion for accountants, business advisors, and bookkeepers, with an aim to helping restore confidence in those people, accountants, bookkeepers, and business advisors, to be able to help you to build the future with your clients. So we're going to be asking you to submit questions to the panel, and we will be presenting these panel sessions on a weekly basis. Now, the panel includes people who will be well known to some of you. Andrew Geddes, who's well known as one of the founders of Financial Management Research Centre, originally at the University of New England, and then as a joint managing director in Smith Inc. Proprietary Limited. And for the last 11 years, Andrew has been the chair of a top 200 ASX company, Green Cross Limited. He brings a wealth of experience, and he is still the chair of half a dozen accountancy firms all across Australia. Paul Barnaby, an ex-senior partner of a top New Zealand accountancy firm, and now the Australian New Zealand manager of Plan Guru, an international budgeting and cash flow forecast software company. And Paul also consults on future planning of businesses. He's not interested in the financial accounts. He wants to help plan on the future. And Jordan Lowry, the managing director of Blackstone Business Group, who are a human resources, workplace health and safety consultancy service. We have a number of other advisors on this panel, including Ash Evans, who's the director of AAA Consulting. Ash is an ex-bank manager, and his whole team are ex-bankers or bank managers, and they are able to bring a tremendous amount of knowledge on loan securing and dealing with banks on a whole range of financial products: leasing, hire purchase, debtors financing, and many other things, overseas financing. We have Priscilla B. Smith, who's the partner of Cloud9 Associates in Brisbane. And Priscilla also operates special training workshops for accountants and bookkeepers and people who wish to obtain their registration with the Australian Taxation Office as bookkeepers or as tax agents. Kevin Thiel, who's a director of Future Ready Group. Kevin is a former practitioner in the Northern Territory, but he is now concentrating on management accounting issues, and he is based in Southeast Victoria. Amanda Gascoigne, who is from the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, is a director of Amanda Gascoigne Consulting. Amanda works with a whole range of smaller accountancy firms on helping create direction and marketing activities, and offers them advice on how they are running their business. Trent Butler from Sydney is the director of Trent D. Butler Consulting Services, who assists accountancy firms to utilize the social media platforms to market their products and services to a far broader market. So we're going to be asking from Thursday of this week for questions for the panel. The first panel session is going to be on Friday, the 17th of April at 12 noon AEST. We will have 3 members of the panel, together with yours truly, acting as the host, who will answer your questions submitted, and they will give you an overview of what they're seeing in their marketplaces and how they can assist you as accountants to deliver outstanding service to assist your clients to survive during this difficult period. We are also going to be running a separate series of presentations on a Wednesday at 12 noon for small and medium-sized enterprises. And if you would think that any of your clients would like to attend those, we will be sending you the details so you can invite them. So to register for these webinars, can you please go to www.essbiztools.com.au/webinars, and there you will be able to register to participate in this series of webinars, which we will be presenting at least until the 30th of September each week, to keep you informed, to have a discussion. And each week you'll have a variety on the panel, because we've got 10 affiliates, but we've decided the model should be 3 affiliates of our experts in various things on the panel each week, and they will be able to have a discussion and answer your questions. Okay, so we're nearly finished. If you require any assistance, either in your accountancy firm or to help any of your clients to navigate the very difficult conditions that are now prevailing all around Australia, please don't hesitate to contact us, even if it's only for a telephone discussion or a Zoom meeting. This can be a very lonely time, and many of you I know are working at home. You can send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, or telephone me on 1-800-232-088. Keep safe during this difficult period. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be with us for many months to come. We're going to have to get used to this new way of working. So good luck and best wishes to you and your families and your team members, and obviously to your clients, that they will be able to navigate these dangerous conditions with your assistance, because you'll be guiding them with the COVID-19 survival plan. Have a good day. Goodbye.